Hello, once again, I'm Corley Dennis and I'm your host for Freshman First Class. And we're in week number 3, and so the semester is moving along, and we hope that now that you're in week number 3, things have settled down a little bit and you're sort of beginning to get into the groove of the semester. Last week we talked about academic policies. This week we have another really important subject area for you, and that's financial assistance. And I'd like to introduce to you Kathy Bialk, who is Director of Student Financial Assistance. Kathy, thank you for being with us today. And I'm sure a lot of students are thinking, financial assistance, financial aid. Ooh, that's kind of a dry topic. Why should they be concerned about financial aid?
Well, one major reason is the majority of our students receive some form of financial assistance, scholarships, grants, loans, and work study. Our incoming freshman class, in fact, 90% of the students receive some form of aid. And if students don't receive financial aid now, it may not be, it could be a possibility in the future, in fact. So we are, talking about the situations of most students. And when students say that, about financial aid, many tend to think it's a parent responsibility when in fact it is the student's financial aid, and there are terms and conditions and rules and that must be followed for students to continue to receive aid. So it's a very important topic for students to understand.
And this is the kind of thing, it can circle back later and bite you from behind. It's sort of bad habits now could really put you in a knot later on in life, couldn't it?
Correct. Financial aid is one of the major components of the whole being financially responsible during your college years. So you're correct in saying that it can come back to bite you if you make some decisions that might not be prudent while you're in college in terms of how you spend or how much you choose to borrow and so on.
And you have a saying, what is it? Live like a student now?
Live like a student now so you do not have to live like a student later is definitely my motto and what I say and believe students should do.
So what does that mean? I mean, live like a student now so you don't have to later.
Well, what that means is that students certainly come to college so that they will have a profession or go on to graduate school, so ultimately would have a career, a good paying job. And when you come with that focus, sometimes you think, well, I'm already in that position and I want to live that lifestyle now, as opposed to that's something that you will earn through time. And students' standard of living should be just that, a student's standard of living. There are costs that students have direct control over, and that's what I mean by living like a student now so you don't have to live like a student later. Sometimes we will provide students financial aid offers to the extent possible, but some students may not need to necessarily accept all of the loans that have been offered. They may have different means in which they can pay or can cut cost in some regard when attending college. Mm-hmm. So that's the idea. And one of the most important factors aside from that is attending class. You're paying for this education, and particularly when it comes to student borrowing, you could be paying for this much longer. So if you're not attending class, you're not really receiving that educational instruction that you've paid for and could pay down the road for many years.
Ramen noodles and macaroni cheese now and have the steak later. So.
Well, yeah.
So we actually have a quiz. I say we. You actually have a quiz that you've put together. So let's go to the first slide on the quiz, and let's see what your financial aid aptitude is. So let's go ahead and pop up the first slide. So it says, to apply for federal, state, and institutional financial aid, students must file the free application for federal student aid, FAFSA. To file the free FAFSA, students must go to, and you see the link there, FAFSA.com. Is that true or false?
That is false. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, a lot of students, FAFSA is a common, in fact, it's a tongue twister, I think. FAFSA stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. And that's exactly what it is. It's a free application. Don't be fooled. Don't just arbitrarily Google FAFSA. when it's time to apply for financial aid. The FAFSA.com, COM stands for commercial. It's a profit-making entity. Students may receive help directly through the FAFSA resources, the U.S. Department of Education, and of course from Marshall University Student Financial Assistance. I would say my advice is to stay away from the commercial scholarship. They're usually legitimate in that they offer scholarships, but they are collecting private information.
The deadline for West Virginia undergraduate students to file the FAFSA to be fully considered for the West Virginia Higher Education Grant is, and there are your deadline dates, and you all chose which one? The answer is, let's see the answer.
The answer is B, April 15th. It's associated with the tax filing deadline. Students certainly can apply after that date, but then the student is reducing his or her chances in receiving all forms of assistance.
Early bird gets the worm.
That's
type
right.
thing. Let's go on to the next slide. Filed the FAFSA, now the Office of Student Financial Assistance requesting I submit documentation to complete the process called verification. The Office of Student Financial Assistant is doing this just to hassle my family and me. True or false? And the answer is...
Of course we're trying to do that to hassle
I
you.
Hope you pick, right, I hope you
That's
pick
our
false.
most favorite part of our jobs. Our office is required to ensure or to verify data on the free application for federal student aid. We are required by regulation. And when you think about it, you as a taxpayer and all others, we have a responsibility to make sure that the right amount of financial aid goes to the right students. It's a process to ensure that the information on the FAFSA is accurate.
Okay, let's go on to the next question. As long as I have a cumulative GPA of at least a 2.0, I'm in good academic standing and I'm meeting the requirements of the financial aid satisfactory academic progress policy. True or false, Kathy?
Well, a 2.0 is a C average. To continue to receive financial aid, these are the minimum requirements. Keep in mind that various scholarship programs have more stringent requirements, grade point average requirements, perhaps credit completion requirements. But this is the general policy for all federal and state financial aid programs. Students must have a minimum grade point average of 2.0. That means an overall. So if you're a transfer student, we're not only looking at what you've transferred into the university, but also we are looking at the combination of Marshall University credit along with transfer credit.
And that complete 67% of coursework attempted, that's important too, because that means withdrawing from too many classes can hurt you.
Correct.
My decision to borrow a federal direct loan to purchase a car is a good one because my interest isn't accruing and so it's easy to get. True or false? And the answer is?
That is false, definitely false. It is not a good idea to utilize financial aid to purchase items other than educational expenses.
Let's go to the next slide. What is the maximum aggregate amount of federal direct loan an undergraduate dependent student may receive? Define aggregate, that's total amount of money that the student can receive?
That is, over the course of the student's time being an undergraduate student, its aggregate lifetime limit.
Unsubsidized federal direct loan means that the interest on the loan is being covered by the federal government while you are in school. Is that true or false, Kathy?
That answer is false.
Based on a 10-year repayment plan and a 6.8% fixed interest rate, what's the minimum payment amount you would need to make on a monthly basis if you borrowed $23,000? So this is your monthly payment on a borrowed $23,000, and the answer is?
The answer to that question is $265 monthly if a student is on a 10-year fixed standard payment plan. There are a number of payment plans students can opt to select once they graduate or cease to be enrolled at least half-time when they go into loan repayment. But as a standard, if they want to pay off their loans as quickly as possible within a 10-year period, that payment is $265 a month.
If you borrowed $31,000 at a fixed interest rate of 6.8%, you make payments under the standard repayment plan, your total interest cost over a 10-year period would approximately be, the answer is?
$11,800. So that is more than $1,000 a year extra you are paying for that interest on that loan. So you've borrowed $31,000. You've just tacked on $11,100 in additional cost.
Additional cost.
Yeah.
And this is the latte question. You receive a financial aid refund from your federal direct subsidized loan proceeds to pay for miscellaneous expenses. As a treat, you purchase on average 2 lattes at Starbucks weekly while school's in session during the 4 years you're attending Marshall. Considering the interest on your FDLs being paid by the federal government while you're in school, what would the long-term cost be? And Kathy, the answer to that question is?
If you purchase 2 lattes weekly, the actual cost you'd be paying is $1,024, but the long-term cost, assuming you received a federal direct loan and you received this in the form of a cash payment or a refund because all of your charges were covered, it would be an increased cost.
It's recommended that your student loan payment be less than 8% of your gross income. Based on this recommendation, if you borrowed $31,000 in student loans at 6.8% fixed interest, what's the minimum annual income you must earn? So Kathy, on that kind of money, you have to make what yearly?
You would need to earn $53,512. And you know, this is where you need to, it's just so easy to borrow and so easy, it just is, and you don't feel like this is just financial aid, but it will impact you later, and this is where you need to make a decision. Do I need to borrow as much as I'm allowed to borrow?
Our next question, deferments allow a borrower to postpone their monthly payment in certain circumstances. A student who leaves Marshall but attends another college taking 3 credit-hour course could have their federal loan payments deferred. True or false?
That answer is false. A student attending Marshall must be enrolled at least 6 credit hours or more to have their student loan deferred.
A source in which you may manage and view your entire federal student loan history is?
That source is studentloans.gov, and you may be familiar with this. If we can move ahead to the next slide. You can view your entire loan history. You could look at various loan forgiveness options, repayment.
Question 14. Located, the Office of Student Financial Assistance is located in, and it looks like they've already highlighted the answer. You're in Old Main, and there they all are.
Thank you.
So there's the picture of the Student Financial Assistance staff. If you have questions, you can walk into the office and ask, and I'm sure they'll be able to help you. And we certainly would like to thank Kathy Bialk. That was some very informative information, good information that everybody needs. We're going to continue talking about finances right now, and I'd like to introduce Sarah Krager. She's a student resource specialist at the Student Resource Center. And today, Sarah, we're going to continue to talk about finances, right?
That's right. I'm going to share just some information with our students today about financial responsibility. I just want to give some basic tips and fundamentals on things you can do that are smart choices with your money while you're here in school that will help you with your money while you're here and help you be successful with your finances later. A lot of our students, this might be the first time that they're completely in control of their finances, so hope to lay some good groundwork so that everyone can get started off on the right foot.
Okay, well, let's start with the MUID card, which we're a couple of weeks into the semester now, so the students probably have been paying for meal plans or have paid some things with their ID card, but that's really a sort of an all-in-one card, isn't it?
Absolutely. You can have money on your MUID card in many different forms. Some students might have chosen to put their financial aid on their MUID card. Some students, like you said, might have their meal plan. Some might just be using it for their HERD points to pay for printing or laundry, different services on campus. I'm going to let a Marshall student, Katie Parsley, give the students a little bit more info on the MUID card and what they can do to use it successfully.
Here at Marshall University, your ID is a key to campus life. At Marshall, we use your ID to get into the dorm rooms, to use it to purchase athletic tickets, shows, you use it for meals. Basically, anywhere you go on campus, you're going to need your Marshall ID. Make sure you protect your ID. You want to keep it secure and away from electronic devices, otherwise it will become demagnetized. That's never a good thing when you do that. Also, make sure that you don't share your ID with others. You want to hold on to that. That's your personal ID. No one else needs to be using it. If you use your ID as a debit card, make sure to memorize your PIN and keep it separate from your card. You don't want to write it on your card or keep it in your wallet. Keep it separate for where your ID will be. be. Also, make sure when you're using ATMs, pumping gas, if anytime you're using your card as a debit card, make sure that you're aware of your surroundings. You want to make sure that there's no one around you observing you as you're using your card. Make sure as well to monitor your balance. If you monitor your balance, you'll be sure to avoid getting overcharges and late fees. Also, your card can be used for herd points. Herd points are not associated with Hire One. They're for Marshall only. You can use your herd points for copying, printing, doing laundry, vending, and also for other discounts. This will prevent you from spending money unnecessarily, and we'll be able to monitor how you use your points. Also, if you have other information regarding herd points, you can contact the ID office. Meal plans are another great advantage with the ID card. Make sure that if you have a meal plan to take advantage of it. Don't waste money in areas where you're spending on breakfast, lunch, dinner whenever you have a meal plan, especially if you have an unlimited meal plan. If you don't have an unlimited meal plan, make sure you monitor the meals you do have. You don't want to eat 2 meals in a day and then go to dinner and realize you don't have any meals left. Also, don't loan your meal card out. If you have any other questions regarding anything in regards to the Marshall University ID, please contact the ID office.
So that's a lot of great information from Katie. 2 things that she said that I really like are there are some places on campus that you can use your MUID card and get discounts on. Like if you live in the dorms and you have to do your laundry here on campus, if you use your card to pay for it, you're saving money versus the cash or coin option. Also, she mentioned using your meal plan smartly. You know, if you are going out to eat and you have a dinner on your meal plan, you're really paying for dinner twice. So you don't want to do that too much, and you always want to consider the options when you're looking at paying for things that you've already paid for.
Well, speaking of going out to dinner, we've sort of referenced the MUID card as an all-in-one card, but we might have students who work a part-time job and get a paycheck, or maybe mom and dad send money. So, you know, what are their options? Maybe they want to go off campus and eat, and then the card won't necessarily work there.
Very true. For people in that situation, I think a checking account would be the best option. You know, cash is easy to spend, hard to keep track of. Sometimes you might lose it, but if you have a checking account, you can store it in a safe place. I'm going to let 2 members of our community tell students a little bit more about that. Linda Hensley from City National Bank here on 5th Avenue and Exxon Mooney from United Bank both have a little more to say about that.
Okay, both banks are close by. Let's take a look.
Today we're going to talk about our student checking accounts. If you're a student coming to Marshall, you need to open an account, you know you can come to us and we'll help you with your account, and we're on campus. So the thing we'd like to tell you to do is to know what your balance is monthly. Check your balance. Use a check register. I have a check register here so you can record all your transactions in it. That way you can go back online and check your balance. I also like to remind you to protect your password and your checks. Keep your checks separate. Keep your passwords separate. Do not let your passwords go to anyone. And then also keep your debit card and your PIN separate.
Getting a checking account is a perfect place to start. You know, you need to watch your accounts online and make sure that you're taking care of anything that would come in that, you know, you may not have the money for, things like that. You can also pay bills online. That way you can set it up in case you might forget to pay those. That way you can ensure that they're paid on time. It kind of helps you with a little bit of responsibility, but yet you kind of have an idea of what is going on your financial end.
So that was a lot of great information about checking account and why you should get one. I think that's definitely a feasible option for our students with our banks so close, within walking distance. It's still going to be convenient for them. It's going to keep their money safe, easy to monitor that way. Like they said, you can use a check registry or monitor it online, whatever fits your money style and your personality. And that way you know what's going in and what's coming out. It's going to make it easier for you to track and not overspend. And no one wants to overspend with a checking account because then you get those nasty overdraft fees. So if you get a checking account, you definitely want to monitor it. So that's definitely an option that students should look into.
How about a savings account? Do you think they need a savings account in addition to the checking account?
Oh yeah, I definitely would recommend the savings account. In fact, if you're getting a checking account, you might as well open the savings account while you're there and save you a trip back. It's never too early to start saving, and the habits you're establishing for yourself financially now are going to follow you into the future. So if you become a saver now, no matter how big or how small, that's going to pay off for you later. Xan actually had a few more things to say about saving. I'm going to let her take over with that.
Okay.
I would suggest opening a savings account also, just because I know that when you're young, if it's in there, you have all intentions of saving it. But I think if it's very easy to swipe your debit card or check card, and if you have it in your savings account, you don't have access to it. You have to, move it or transfer, go to the bank and get it. So you think probably more about it if you have to make that transfer than if you just go use your card at the store. Please try to save some money, even if it's $5, $10, $20 a paycheck. I think at the end you will be, very happy.
Well, we've talked about checking, we've talked about savings. Credit is another issue, and credit can really be a black hole for some college students. And of course, later on, they need to be concerned about something called their credit score. So, what are the pitfalls with credit for college students?
Absolutely, and credit score was something that I didn't find out about until it was too late. So I hope that our students are listening now and key in on this part. Your credit score probably isn't affecting you very much right now, but you are doing things that impact your credit score right now. So the choices you're making now will affect you in the future, especially regarding your credit score. A credit score is established based on your wealth to debt ratio, so how much money you have versus how much debt you owed. And a lot of choices you make while you're in college can affect your credit score, including whether or not you pay your bills on time or pay them late. If you apply for a credit card or apply to finance some large item like a TV, it can also be affected by your debt. So the choices you're making now definitely have an effect on your credit score, and your credit score is used for a lot of things.
A credit score follows around just like our shadow. If you want to get a car, you've got to have a credit score. If you want to get a home loan, they're going to look at your credit score. If you want to buy a major item, cost item, they're going to certainly look at your credit score. Even if you look for a job, they're going to still look at your credit score. So what I advise you to do is be very responsible in your spending. Have a budget, whether it's a mental budget or an actual written budget, but make sure you have a budget and live within your means, because we all know people that tend to overspend, and when you do that, that has an adverse effect on your credit score. And if that happens, then the cost of borrowing is going to go up, so it'll be more expensive to pay for that cell phone that you want to. If you want to learn more about personal finance and financial responsibilities, money management, credit management, these types of areas, retirement planning, you can certainly take my course. It's Finance 201, titled Personal Finance.
Some good advice. Students definitely need to be aware and be diligent with the choices they're making. Credit cards, they can be very alluring. It's easy money. Sometimes stores offer you a discount if you sign up for the card right then. So I know too from personal experience how easy it is to get in that trap. And like you said earlier, it can be a black hole and you just keep getting more and more. So if you are a student who is looking at a credit card and looking at getting one, I think a student should definitely read the fine print, make sure you understand everything. What exactly does this interest rate mean? Is it a high or low interest rate? What are these monthly or yearly fees? What is this extra fee if I decide to take cash? And those terms can be very confusing. They're not terms you typically hear, APR, things that you don't know about. So I think if a student is looking at getting one of those, before they agree and sign up for it, they should read all the fine print. If they don't understand it, they should ask someone who does. Understand the full gamut of what you're getting into before you let that application be processed.
Because it really can spiral out of control. I mean, if you put $500 on a credit card at 24 or 28% interest, and then you only make the minimum payment, they keep adding that interest back onto the amount left, right?
You could be looking at paying that card for the next 20 years depending on how much you pay. And the confusing part is too, you get these card statements that say minimum payment $25. You think, oh, that's nothing, I can pay $25. But you're paying the minimum, so things just keep growing and growing. I would recommend if you do happen to get a credit card that you always pay more than the minimum, even if it's only $5 or $10. That will help you pay it off faster. And like you said, it can be a black hole. You need to definitely understand what that is before you get one. If you're listening to this today and this is new information, it's okay. It's okay if you don't know. It's okay if you didn't know about any of this stuff before you saw this video. You're not the only one. In fact, on that note, I'm going to let someone else from our community tell a little bit about his background and maybe give some reassuring words.
Okay.
Develop habits, spending habits now in the right way, because the spending habits that you develop now are going to carry on with you in your working careers, wherever that may be, okay? And that may change several times, but your spending habits will always stay the same. It's okay if you don't know anything about money right now. I remember whenever I first started college, I actually went to Marshall for my first 2 years of college, and I had to write my first rent check, and I had no idea how to write a check.
Sarah, did he just say he didn't know how to write a check?
Yes, he did. In fact, the rest of the video that we didn't show there is him talking about how his mom helped him to complete that rent check and fill in all the appropriate boxes so that he could get his apartment here. And, you know, he's not the only one who's been in those shoes. I'm sure some of the people watching this video are, and I was too. And it's okay. And I don't know if you noticed, but under his name tag on that video there, it says Northwestern Mutual Financial Network. So he sat here in the same position as some of these students and didn't know anything about money. And he's gone on and made a career in the finance field. So just, that's reassuring sometimes to hear that it's okay not to know now. And if you are a student is watching that is interested in finding out more information about this, you know, you could take Dr. Shaw's class that was mentioned earlier through the finance department, or you could come and talk to me in the Student Resource Center or any of our resource specialists. Twice a year we offer a financial responsibility program, a couple of different sections of it where we go into more depth about credit cards and credit. We talk about creating a spending plan, and we talk about different ways you can save money, and we have that in the fall and the spring.
And so we want to thank Sarah Krager from the Student Resource Center and Director of Student Financial Aid, Kathy Bialk, today for all of their information on student finances and student financial responsibility. You're going to be working with your facilitator now, and we'll see you next week in your freshman first class.